Our series that we've been going through for the past couple weeks has been called Plot Twist, all right? So what we've been doing is we've been taking kind of well-known stories in the Bible, and we've just been pointing out things that maybe you've missed before. All right, and so last week, my little brother Tim, if you didn't know we're related, he got the good looks and the musical talent, but he also preached an awesome message last week. And so what's cool about these messages, though, usually when we do a series, like they're all sort of interconnected. This one's just random. We have one theme, and then we're just preaching about random stuff. So I've actually really enjoyed it. It's kind of like pushed my creativity a little bit. And what's interesting, I wasn't going to share this wasn't a part of my notes, but what's interesting is that this morning at 3 a.m., I woke up in a complete panic. And so I guess the Lord has something in store for us because the devil was really getting at me at 3 a.m. this morning. I never fell back asleep. So if I just collapse and go to sleep, we can all just leave, okay? But just buckle in. I told Bill this morning, I don't have anything profound to say this morning. It's not like you need to convert now type of message I'm doing today. So I don't know what the Lord's got in store for you. Maybe you just needed to show up this morning and the devil was like, no, you're not going to. So I'm glad that you're here and I'm super stoked to get started. We okay with that this morning? Cool. All right. So I am not the pastor here. I'm the next gen pastor, which means I'm over all the children. So if you see any children running around anywhere, it's because I'm not in charge of them today. Thank God. All right. So if you see them around, I don't know. Don't tell Scotty. Okay. He's not here. Don't tell him. All right. So being that I like kids and that I am young, sort of, I'm about to be 28. Good. God bless. The closer you get to 30, the more your body hurts. So today, my more mature friends are like, shut up, KV. And I'm like, all right. Notice I said more mature, right? Not old. So we're going to start off with a game today. Nobody else is excited except for me. Great. Yes, thank you, Ryder. All right, so I'm not going to force you to participate. If you were in my classroom, I used to be an 8th grade U.S. history teacher, I would force you to participate. That's not the way this is going to work because I would probably get fired for doing that. But the game is simple. I'm going to put a word on the screen, and I just want you to think about what comes to mind. All right, I'm going to openly talk about what comes to my mind, but you can just think about it, okay? You don't have to respond to me. If you feel the need to respond because you're a good human, just whisper to your neighbor beside you of what comes to mind, all right? So the first word I want to put up today is fruit. It's okay, they're going to fix it, all right? So what comes to my mind, Katie played this game with me earlier in the week, and she was like, what comes to mind when I say the word fruit? And I'm like, fruit of the Spirit, because I'm a Christian and I'm super good at it. Just kidding, but I was in the middle of writing my sermon and I was like, fruit of the Spirit. Can I name them all? No, okay. But typically what comes to mind is nectarines because it's my favorite fruit. And the other thing that comes to mind is bananas because I'm allergic to bananas, so I can't eat them. That's kind of a random allergy I found out randomly. I got the hives in my classroom one time, and that's because I ate a banana. All right, so that's exciting. What about fun? Thank you, Ryder. You're a great human, all right? Something for me that's been fun for the past 2 weeks, I've been watching the Women College World Series on ESPN. I have been glued to my TV because I love softball. I think it's the best sport ever. If you disagree, sorry, you're wrong. But it's awesome because as a kid, I wanted to be there. That was my dream. That was my goal. And then it just didn't happen, right? But I get to watch these other girls reach their dreams. And it's all fun and games until Alabama lost, and then I didn't have any fun anymore. And I actually stopped watching because I was just over it. All right, so that's what comes to my mind. What about influence? Maybe you think about the definition of influence. Maybe you're thinking about people that influenced you when you were younger. I have quite a few influences in my life, but my first influence was Pudge Rodriguez. I talk about him often on the stage. Yeah, okay, a lot of yes. Okay, you know your baseball, right? But Pudge Rodriguez, he was a catcher for the Texas Rangers. And when I grew up, I was going to be a catcher for the Texas Rangers. Except one thing, God created me to be a woman, and we can't do that. Someday we will, all right? But another one of my influences, her name was Monica Abbott, and she was a pitcher for the University of Tennessee. And I remember watching her on TV, and the reason that she sticks in my mind is because she had this wild wind-up, right? And she would go way down here and then bring the ball up, and man, she was incredible. She's so incredible that she's on the USA Olympic team. I'm super stoked to watch her this summer. But one of the most awesome things about her, and the reason I'm so influenced by her, is that she is the only woman ever to sign a $1 million contract to play a sport. Ever. in the history of sports. And she did it to play softball. Wow, that just gets me fired up. We could talk about softball all day. This guy's like, this was not on your notes. I'm like, softball, man, okay? But influence. Here's the thing about those. Pudge Rodriguez did not change my heart. Monica Abbott did not change my heart. She didn't change my mind about anything. She doesn't really change my attitude. She's just someone I like. All right? So let me ask you this. Who has influenced you? I'm a reflection type of person. I like to think about these things. But I want to get a little bit deeper this morning. I want to talk about this verse right here. This is what Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians. He says, or he wrote really, for even if you had 10,000 others to teach you about Christ, you have one spiritual father. Or you have one spiritual mother, you have one spiritual grandma or grandpa, okay? You have someone in your life that when it boils down to it, they're the ones that kind of taught you the things about life. For I became your father in Christ Jesus when I preached the good news to you. So I urge you to imitate me. So another way that I want to say this morning is, who was your mentor? I can name a long list of mentors in my life. Praise God for that. There's been a lot of people in KV's life that's tried to help me out. Praise God. There's one lady I want to talk about in particular, though, and I'm kind of upset she's not here this morning. But her name is Miss Glenda Limke. All right? People affectionately call her Gigi. I call her G because she's a gangster. And I know if I ever needed somebody to come and fight my battle, it's going to be G. All right, I met G 3 years ago. G is a little bit of the more mature crowd. All right, she's in her 70s. I'm in my 20s. Don't tell her I told you that, though, okay? She looks 20, okay? Tell her that. But I met her like 3 years ago. And she volunteered to be a community group leader. And basically, she was supposed to invite people into her home, and we were supposed to talk about the sermons. We were supposed to answer all these questions. And it was really cool because our group was a group of 5 20-year-olds in a 7-year-old woman's house. All right, and we were supposed to talk about these sermon questions, but let me tell you, we never really got to them because she had so much life to share with us. And it was amazing. It was one of the most amazing times of my life. And she was only my community life leader, group leader for 1 year. But man, did she share so much. And she's like one of my top contacts in my text messages, like right under Brenda, my mother, right under Katie, my best friend, there's Glenda. Because that's just the type of person that she is. When I had a kidney stone and I was in the hospital, she was out of town. She came back from out of town, and she immediately, when she got home, she whipped up the most amazing homemade chocolate chip cookies. Because did you know, I don't know if you know this is not on the interwebs, all right, but chocolate chip cookies are the cure for kidney stones, okay? You heard it here today, all right? That was a message from the Lord, I'm pretty sure, all right? And then, this is one of my favorite memories of her. A year ago, I decided I wasn't going to teach anymore, and I was going to become this preacher woman. And you don't really do that as a woman, and so there was a lot of people that were kind of confused about the decision. Some people didn't agree, and I texted Glenda, and I said, Glenda, I'm having the worst day ever. I'm having a tough day. And she immediately texted me back, and she said, I'm coming to see you. I lived in Brady. Okay, if you've never been to Brady, it's not a short drive, right? It's 45 minutes of, and she like dropped everything. I was like, what were your plans today? She's like, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna come see you. And so we met at a Mexican food restaurant, and I just poured my heart and soul out to her. I probably cussed a bit. That's okay, the Lord forgives. But she just gave me the most solid advice, and she left, and I just felt so good. I was like, you know what? If I got Glenda, I can do anything. That's why she's my G, because she's a gangster, and she's gonna help me out. All right, so let's define mentor. To be a mentor means that you empower. That's something that we do here at Brownwood Community Church. Equip, empower, and encourage. All right, you empower by sharing your experiences and resources with another person. But I want to make this even more simpler. You share your experiences with another person. You don't have to share your resources. All right, Glenda is a great cook. Man, she makes a mean chicken spaghetti. All right, it's delicious, but I don't need that from her. I need what she has to offer, and that's life advice. That's love. That's a hug, and I'm not even a hugger, man, but I'm like, gee, come hug me. I know it's going to make me feel better. All right? And I want to sum this up really well in one verse from the Bible today. And this is in 1 Thessalonians 2:8. Because we loved you so much, we are delighted to share with you not only the gospel of God, but our lives as well. Being a mentor doesn't mean that you've got to go out of your realm to make people feel welcome. You just live life together. All right? Another few of my mentors, they're not here today either. I'm mad. I'm bragging on all these people and they decide not to show up. I'll call them later. But Jerry and Stephanie Adamez, I don't know if you've ever met them, but here's the thing about Jerry and Stephanie Adamez. They're still raising teenagers in their household, yet they make time for me. They share their lives with me, and sometimes that means that if I want time with Jerry and Stephanie, I got to go to a basketball game and watch JD play basketball just so I can have time with Jerry and Stephanie. That's mentorship. You share life with one another. It doesn't matter if your house is dirty. It doesn't matter if you're busy. Man, take somebody along with you. That's called mentorship. And so today, I want to talk about mentorship in the Bible because plot twist, it's not really discussed. Not discussed in a way that says, this is good mentorship. All right? And we're going to be talking about Paul. All right? And we talk about Paul a lot in this church. All right? He's Scotty's superhero. I understand that. I don't love Paul as much as he does. I have a few issues with Paul. He says some things about women. All right, we're going to skid past that. It's not important today. That's a sermon for another day and probably not by me. All right, I'll let Susie take that one, okay? But what we're going to be talking about is before Paul, he was Saul, all right? I love in the Bible, like when you have this great conversion story, you get a new name. So like I went from KD to KV, Preacher KV, all right? I like it. It's a big conversion. No, I'm just kidding. It's just a nickname. But before it was Paul, it was Saul. And what you need to know about him is Saul equals bad dude. All right? And a couple of weeks ago, Scotty actually talked a lot about Paul's conversion story. And so I'm not going to go through a lot of that. But before Paul gets converted to Paul, he's Saul and he's a bad dude. That's what you need to know. All right, there's a disciple. His name is Stephen. Stephen's out preaching the word. He's on fire. He gets arrested for basically lying. And he goes to trial and he gets stoned to death. And I just want to show you this one verse out of this chapter that kind of just shows you how intense this dude Saul was, all right? So Luke wrote the book of Acts, and he wrote this. He said, Saul was one of the witnesses, and he agreed completely with the killing of Stephen. All right, so when they stone somebody, I imagine it's quite literal. They took a stone and hit the person to death. And Saul was like, yep, great job, guys. High fives all around. Like he was okay with that. And I don't know when you get a place into your heart where you're okay with that. Like that just really freaks me out, right? So once again, our big token today, Saul equals bad dude. All right, but if you know the story of Saul, Saul's on his way to Damascus. He's on the road. He's looking for Christians to beat up because that's what he liked to do, to throw them in prison, to kill them. He thought that was great. Okay, he's on the road to Damascus. And God's like, no, boy, howdy, you are not. All right, so Saul's walking down the road. He's going to have this encounter with God. He's going to be blind for 3 days. And he is going to have this miraculous testimony. And that's where I want to pick up today, all right? If you want to know more about Saul's conversion story, I highly suggest reading the book of Acts. That's where you can find it. But we're going to be right after that, all right? So Saul is going to stay with the believers in Damascus for a few days. And immediately he began preaching about Jesus in the synagogue, saying, he is indeed the Son of God. And this is where my frustration with Paul comes in. All right, because I've been doing this Christian thing since I was 19. All right, that's when I was baptized. That's when I finally got it in my thick skull that Jesus is cool and rad and he saved my life. But I haven't been super great at the whole Christian thing for it's only been about 5 years that I've really gotten it. Like there's a flame in my heart that's like, Jesus, yeah. If I was in a Jesus metal band, it would go really well. All right, but Paul has this conversion story, and immediately he gets it, and immediately he starts preaching. And what's frustrating for me is I still have a lot of questions. I still have a lot of things that I don't really know. Like the other day, I said to Bill, we're on this way to this conference. I'm like, Bill, who wrote Genesis? Like, these are questions I don't know, like, and then the other day I'm like, how did Jesus know about all the parables? Like, did he just know that because he's fully God and fully, like, I don't understand, right? I still have a lot of questions. For Paul, it doesn't seem that way, but there's a plot twist because he doesn't do it alone, all right? And we're going to get there in just a second. But he immediately starts preaching it, and he says, he is indeed the Son of God. I don't know how many of you wear glasses in here, but I've had glasses since first grade. I was real cute with them back then, but they annoy me, all right? So I wear contacts, right? And sometimes I get real tired, and I take a nap in my contacts, and then I wake up, and I'm like, God has healed me. I can see. And then I'm like, oh, wait. I have my contacts in, right? So this is kind of what happens to Saul. Like, one day he was blind. For 3 whole days he was blind, and he finally could see again. And he's like, boy, howdy, he is the Son of God. I was blind, and now I can see. I would be screaming that too. I would for sure be screaming that because I hate being blind, right? And so all who heard him were amazed. They're like, whoa, wait a second. Isn't this the same man? Isn't this the same dude who caused such devastation among Jesus' followers in Jerusalem, they asked? And wait a second. Didn't he come here to arrest them and take them in chains to the leading priest? Wait a minute. I've been here before, right? There's this dude named Kanye, and he used to proclaim himself as God, and then he released a Christian rap album, and now he's a Christian. And I said, whoa, wait a second. Isn't this the same guy? I was having a conversation with some of my youth kids a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about Justin Bieber. I love Justin Bieber. I'm just going to be real honest. I said, he's a Christian, right? And one of my students said, whoa, isn't he the same guy? All right, there's a lot of questions about it. All right, sometimes we Christians, when we see somebody that's had a rough life and they're finally a Christian, they finally get it, instead of celebrating, we're like, wait. Aren't you the same? Ugh. That's free today. That's not a part of my lesson, but that's free today. All right? When Saul arrived in Jerusalem, it gets better. He tried to meet with the disciples, okay? If you don't know the disciples, those are those homie-comies that actually live with Jesus, live life, did life with Jesus. They're supposed to be the good ones, okay? He goes to meet with the disciples, but they were all afraid of him. Whoa, wait. Isn't this the same dude that killed our friend Stephen, and now he's a Christian? Like, this is Benedict Arnold before Benedict Arnold, right? It's kind of like, it seems to me like he's a bit of a traitor at this point. Like, is he really a Christian? Or is he, like, going to make us believe that he's a Christian, and then we all going to die? They said they did not believe he had truly become a believer. But man, you ever have that one friend that vouches for you? KC is always my one friend that vouches for me. All right? I love Jesus, but man, I like to have a good time too, So, like, I feel like when I introduce myself to people, KC's always got to be there and be like, no, she really is a good person, Or, no, she really is nice, okay? She's really not as scary as she seems, all right? Paul had that one person, and it's Barnabas. Barnabas brought him to the apostles, and he's like, oh, wait, I saw this happen, friends. I saw this conversion go down. He told him how Saul had seen the Lord on his way to Damascus, and how the Lord had spoken to Saul. And he's like, oh, wait, guys, I can vouch for him. He's good. I saw it happen. It's real. And what does this have to do with mentorship, right? I've led you on a crazy little road here. Let me tell you something about mentorship. Mentorship is risky. Have you ever met a young person before? Boy, howdy, we're risky, right? I have no idea what I'm doing in my life. And it's risky for you to be involved in that. It's risky for you to say, KV, I see you. I want to be with you. I want to share life with you, even though you don't have any idea what you're doing. And it's 100,000% true. Mentorship is risky. Because you don't know my past. When we read Saul's story, we see everything about Saul. We know his past. You don't know what I've done. You don't know that I used to be a liar and a manipulator. before I knew Jesus. You don't know that about me. What if I'm a traitor? You don't know. Mentorship is risky. But let me tell you something else about mentorship. Mentorship is discipleship. In 2021, every church in America is still asking the same question: how do we make disciples? Because Jesus said, go and make disciples. How do you do that? You mentor somebody. You live life with somebody. Discipleship is living life together. And I don't know why we can't figure it out. Maybe they need some 28-year-old nearly to tell them how to do it. You just live life together. Mentorship is discipleship, and that means discipleship is risky, and following Jesus is risky. But isn't it worth it? Woo, boy howdy. I feel good today. I'm going to crash in a few minutes though, okay? And so then Paul and Barnabas, he's had his name changed at this point. They're going to go on their first missionary trip together. They're going to preach at Antioch together, and they're going to spend 3 solid years together. So what you need to know this morning is that Paul is being discipled. Paul didn't just wake up one morning and know everything. He spent 3 years learning, because here's what we know about Paul. Paul was very religious. When he was Saul, he was very religious. And what we know about the religious people back then is that they like to keep the laws. They're rule followers, and they keep it to the T. So Paul had a lot of unlearning to do. I feel like if Barnabas would have wrote a book in the Bible, it would be all about Paul and how he had to teach Paul not to be like Paul. Maybe he did write a book, who knows. So Paul and Barnabas formed this friendship. Along the way in this missionary trip, they're going to meet this dude named Mark. And Mark's going to travel with them for a little while, but then Mark is like, you see that church over there? They got a pool. I'm going to hang out over there, right? Mark is going to step away from the trip for a little while. And that's going to make Paul really upset, right? He's going to be very frustrated that Mark did this. And so as they come to the end of their missionary journey, Paul looks at Barnabas and is like, hey, we've built all these churches. We've been with all these churches for 3 years. I think we should go back and check on them. Because mentorship isn't just a one-day thing. Discipleship isn't just a one-day thing. He's like, I think we should go back and check on them. And Barnabas is like, yeah, let's go grab our friend Mark. And Paul's like, no. I don't want anything to do with Mark. Because Mark deserted us. Literally, my Bible translation, I feel like Paul is so dramatic, which is why we would get along. He's like, he deserted us. That's a little dramatic, right? He took some time away. All right, so this is going to cause a great divide between Paul and Barnabas, and they're not going to be friends anymore. And sometimes that happens, but what you need to understand about mentorship, and what Paul didn't understand, is that mentorship is hard because people fail. When you walked in this morning, to the left on the wall, there's this black little circle that our friend Jarvis made. Jarvis, the thing of all things. He does all the things. I'm going to get you a name tag that says that, okay? All the things. But there's a little round piece of wood that says allow failure. That's a core value of Brownwood Community Church. That means that's what makes us tick. And what you need to understand about mentorship is that young people, plug your ears real quick. We kind of dumb. We're going to fail. You may have some really great expectations for us, and I'm sorry, I'm just not going to meet it because there's probably a softball game on and I can't make it. Sometimes I'm going to do things, I'm going to say things, it's going to get ugly, it's going to get nasty. But mentorship is hard because people fail. But what you need to keep in mind is that mentorship is discipleship, and you need to be willing to let me fail. And then you need to be willing to help me back up. And I need to help you back up too. And so here's the crazy thing. Even though Barnabas and Paul break up for all, I don't have a better word for it, their relationship ends. Paul continues on. He's going to continue his journey. And he's going to see somebody else. He's going to see this dude named Silas. And he's like, Silas, come with me. He's going to see this dude named Timothy. And he's like, yo, Timothy, come with me. You want to know why? Because he understands the importance of mentorship. He understands the importance of mentorship, being discipleship. And even though Paul's been hurt, and even though Mark left him, he felt deserted. And Barnabas wants to go back to him. Paul still says, you know what? I see the importance of this. I need to be a spiritual father. I need to be a spiritual mother. I need to be a spiritual granddad to these young people because we need disciples. So I want you to do me a favor this morning. It's not going to be awkward because we're all going to do it. I want you to just kind of scan the room a little bit, right? Look to your left, look to your right. What you should notice, good, we're all doing it. Wow, everybody give yourself a high five. That's good for me. Thank you, Tim. What you should notice is that there's people of all ages in here. All right? We've got more mature people. I did not say old. We've got young ones in here, which is awesome. We've got young families. We've got young married people. We've got young single people. Still looking, you know what I'm saying? There's somewhere for you to fit in here. There's someone in here that needs you. We need you. We need you. And let me tell you, none of my mentors, well, I think Susie knew, and I think Scotty knew, but many of my mentors never knew that when they were mentoring me that I would be this person right here. Many of them did not, yet they did it anyway. Barnabas did not know that Paul would go on to be this apostle who would write half of the New Testament and have all this knowledge. He had no idea. Paul was just a punk kid when he found him. So, how do you become a mentor? What do you do? This is a class I would like to call Mentorship 101. Welcome. Let me help you. Let me give you some tips, because sometimes it's hard to know where to start. You can volunteer at youth 2 hours a week on Wednesdays. I'm not asking you to preach. If you'd like to, boy howdy, come on. If we have any women in here that like to preach at youth, come on. You know what I'm saying? I'm not asking you to be a small group leader. I'm not going to beg you. I don't need to beg. If I have to beg you, your heart's not in the right place and you're not ready. But there's a place for you at youth. Even if you just want to serve snacks. Even if you just want to let people in the door. They need you. If you walked in this morning and you saw the people that were running our lyrics this morning and running our lights, they're teenagers. Typically the people that run our cameras are teenagers. Apparently they're all watching softball this morning or something. And I would love to stand up here and tell you that since I'm the youth pastor, it's because of what I've done for those youth kids, the reason that they're there. But it's not me, it's Jarvis Green. Because Jarvis spends time with them. I don't spend time with teenage boys because I don't understand them. Okay, I just don't get them, but I love them so much. He spends time with them. Some of those teenage boys that run our cameras, they're a part of his small group. Some of them aren't. And you know what? I could never get them here at 10 a.m. You know who gets them here at 10 a.m.? Jarvis. The opportunity to hang out with Jarvis. Because of the type of person that Jarvis is. And because Jarvis understands that they're just not running cameras. Ooh, they're not just running cameras. They're building a relationship together, and that's mentorship. Volunteer in kids' church or nursery 1 time a month. Now, there's a big commitment for youth. Our teenagers need you. From the ages 13 to 17 is the time that teenagers push away their parents the most. They need you. That's more of a commitment. If you're not there yet, I understand that. But you know what, kids' church? 1 time a month. That's when I need you. I have 0 volunteers in kids' church. And I'm not saying that to make you feel bad, but I'm telling you that our little 5-year-olds and our little 7-year-olds and our little 10-year-olds, they need you too. They need you too. 1 time a month. What can they learn in one time a month? I don't know. What are you going to tell them? What are you going to teach them? What do you have to share with them? What are you going to talk about? Who knows? They're kids. Show them a cool elephant video. That's mentorship. That's discipleship. Maybe you're not there yet. How about this? You could coach a little league team. 1 time a month. 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 All right, maybe you're not the church volunteer type. I get it. I understand. I'm currently doing this. I am coaching an early middle school basketball team, and God bless me, I don't know why. Because one, if you like basketball, I'm so sorry, but I don't. Like, everything to me is a foul. You know, like, they look at my girls the wrong way, and I'm like, that's a technical. You know what I'm saying? You know, everything's a travel to me. You know what I'm saying? And it's an early, right? And I'm a Bangs Dragon. And we don't really do that. And I don't know any of these girls. Did I tell you that? I don't even know their names. All right? They were like my friend Jana. She works at the school. She calls me up. She's like, yo, Katie, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm watching TV. Leave me alone. And she's like, hey, can you coach this middle school basketball team? Because I'm not allowed to because I work for the school, and we need somebody non-biased. And I know you went to Bangs, so you don't really like early at all, so you're pretty non-biased. And I need somebody that doesn't know any of the girls, and you don't know any of the girls. Can you sub them in and out? I'm like, sure, great. You want to know why I do that? Because I know 13-year-olds need me. And I love 13-year-olds. I love 13-year-old girls the most because they're so catty and so mean, and I'm just like, oh, the love of Jesus will change you. And I'm not there yet. I don't know their names, you know? I'm going to be with them 3 weeks. Can I change a life in 3 weeks? I don't know that I can, but God can. A high five can. A hey, good job can. Me yelling like a crazy person can, I guess, maybe. What am I yelling about? I have no idea. It's great. All right, well, maybe you're not here yet. You don't want to coach a little league team. You don't know anything about sports. Okay. What if you just invite young people to lunch? Because let me tell you, by like 11 o'clock this morning, I was already hungry and already thinking about my lunch. But here's the thing you need to know about young people. We're kind of poor. So if you're going to offer free lunch, we'll take you up on it. All right? When Ryder comes to Wednesday nights, he eats 17 bags of chips. He's a growing boy. Invite him out to lunch. Because you know what? Ryder has a beautiful heart. And you don't know that until you talk to him. You don't know that until you invite him to lunch. And here's the thing. I'm kind of picking on the older crowd here. But young people, we can do this too. You can come volunteer in youth. I've got a senior in here. This is her second or third time to come to church. I met with her at lunch the other day. I've got big plans for her. Not because I can pour into her life, but that she can pour into some of our youth. And I think she's going to do a great job because she's serious, and I love it. She's serious about Jesus, and I love it. Little kids, you can do this too, man. We got some babies back there that would love your love. Because we loved you so much. We were delighted to share with you not only the gospel of God. You know, our mission statement here at Brownwood Community Church is to reach the 16,000 people that don't have a church home. So our goal is to introduce people to Jesus one relationship at a time. But our lives as well. Because let me tell you, I didn't love Jesus until I started sharing life with other people who love Jesus. Because of one person in college, Larissa Leifer, her name is now Lily. She's married. She lives in Washington. Because she looked through my punk skin and because I was a liar and I was not a good person, and yet she still pursued me. And it's because of her influence in my life that I'm standing up here today. And Julia Areola, because she was my RA. God bless her. So this morning I asked you this question: who was your mentor? I think it's important to think about those things. Many of my mentors are in this very room. Susie and Randy, Emily and Scotty. Man, used to when I had to hang out with Emily and Scotty, I had to go watch Little Timothy in a play. And it was worth it because Timothy was really talented. Patty and John in the back, they're in the nursery right now. The amount of times that they have invited me to their house and fed me. Meals and young people work well together. You should know that. Man, and that's all it took. They didn't save my life. They didn't tell me anything profound, but just living life together helped me be a better person. So this morning, as you're leaving here, who are you mentoring? Who are you mentoring? And if the answer to that question is no one, why? You got to find that why. Why are you not doing it? 5 minutes of your time, 5 minutes of hugging Susie and Randy's neck on a Sunday is good for me. And we have a women's group, and I wasn't prepared to share this, but we have a women's group that meets every Monday. And a couple weeks ago, we went to Patty and John's house, and Patty made this wonderful meal, and we sat together, and we're supposed to be going over this study. But instead, these 5 women poured into Katie and my life, because I'd been feeling real down, and it was when I did that dang envy sermon, and I had this like amazing vulnerability hangover for like 3 weeks. I couldn't stop crying. And they just poured into our lives. That's discipleship. Who are you mentoring? And if it's no one, why not? And how can you get involved? Because I see a lot of young people in here who need it. A lot of young families that need you. A lot of young kids that need me. If you got a 13-year-old that you can't stand, please send them to my house. I will love them. Who are you mentoring? Because here's the most important thing that you need to understand today. Mentorship is discipleship. Jesus said, go and make disciples. How do you do that? By mentoring other people, by living life with one another. Let's pray. God, we thank you for the opportunity to live life with one another. You created us to live with each other. And that you don't expect us to have all the right answers, and that your expectations are really none, that you just want to love us and you want to have a relationship with us. God, I pray for the people in this room today, God, as they leave these doors, they leave this place, that this question of who are you mentoring really sinks in. It doesn't take a lot. And I'm so thankful for the mentors that you have placed in this room. I can feel them, God. They're looking around. They know that they've got a call, and that their call is to disciple young people. And young people, we better be ready, because they're coming. And God, I pray that as our influence increases, that the 16,000 that have no place to call home will find our home here. In Jesus' name, amen. You guys have a great afternoon. Love you. Find somebody to mentor. Have a good day.